Reality is a puzzle, crafted by the powerful. We seek the pieces they don't want you to find. This is Darknode, and tonight we ask, what if the alien invasion already happened and you just never noticed? Have you ever had a conversation with someone and felt like something was off? A strange turn of phrase, a glance that lingered too long, a subtle lack of emotion where there should have been empathy. You probably dismissed it, a cultural difference, an awkward personality. But what if it wasn't? What if that feeling was an ancient instinct? A primal recognition that the person in front of you wasn't entirely human? We've been taught to look to the skies for visitors, to wait for the grand arrival of silver ships. That may be the greatest misdirection in human history. The theory isn't that they are coming. The theory is that they are already here. For our entire existence, we've operated under a core assumption that we are the sole proprietors of this planet. The story we are told is one of majestic, lonely intelligence. A story where strange lights in the sky are misidentified weather balloons, and tales of abduction are the products of overactive imaginations or psychological distress. The official narrative is clean, simple, and profoundly arrogant. It paints a picture of humanity as the pinnacle of evolution, the only thinking beings in a sea of silent stars. We are told that the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is a noble outbound quest, a search conducted with radio telescopes aimed at distant galaxies. But what if the search shouldn't be aimed outwards, but inwards? What if the most profound mystery isn't in the cosmos, but in our boardrooms, our governments, and walking down our very own streets? When you push past the official denials, a far more intricate and disturbing theory comes into focus. It suggests that an advanced, non-human intelligence, or multiple intelligences, concluded long ago that a dramatic overt invasion would be inefficient and crude. Why conquer a species when you can simply join it? Why use force when you can use influence? This theory branches into several terrifying possibilities, not necessarily little green men, but something far more insidious. One branch suggests a physical infiltration by beings that can appear human, shapeshifters that hold positions of immense power. Another speaks of a more subtle, generational plan, the creation of alien-human hybrids, slowly and silently integrating into our gene pool. And a third, perhaps the most chilling, suggests a form of mimetic or psychic control, an influence over our thoughts and culture so pervasive that we mistake their agenda for our own free will. The goal is the same in all scenarios, not to destroy humanity, but to steer it, to manage it, to control its destiny for a purpose we cannot begin to comprehend. To understand how such a thing could be possible, you have to look at the alleged methods. This isn't about brute force, it's about strategy. The first method is one of direct replacement, the body snatcher narrative. This is the core of the Reptilian Elite theory, a shape-shifting species that can mimic human form perfectly, allowing them to occupy the highest echelons of power. Their infiltration is absolute because they can become anyone. The second method is genetic dilution. This is a quieter, longer game. It relies on decades of abductions and genetic experiments to create a hybrid population. Beings who look human, feel human, but are biologically tethered to an alien consciousness. They aren't invaders. They are our children, our neighbors, our colleagues, acting as nodes in a silent network. The third method is enforcement and intimidation. This is where the infamous Men in Black come in. They aren't the primary invaders, but the cleanup crew. Their role is to suppress evidence, intimidate witnesses into silence, and maintain the illusion that nothing unusual is happening. They are the guardians of the secret, the enforcers of our ignorance. They can silence one voice, but not a network. Like, share, and subscribe to stay connected. Let's open the case files. The idea of shape-shifting leaders isn't new. Ancient cultures worldwide are filled with stories of serpent gods and reptilian beings who came from the stars to rule over humanity. Why is this myth so universal? Proponents of the reptilian theory argue it's not myth, but history. They point to high-definition footage of politicians and global leaders, where for a split second their eyes appear to have vertical slits, or their skin seems to distort in a non-human way. Skeptics call it digital artifacting, a trick of the light. But when you see it happen over and over again, with different people in different lighting conditions, you have to ask, are our screens glitching, or are there masks? Then there's the hybrid program, which has a much more personal and terrifying body of evidence. Consider the foundational case of Betty and Barney Hill in 1961. Under hypnosis, they both recalled being taken aboard a craft and subjected to medical examinations. Barney described beings with large wraparound eyes, while Betty was shown a star map that she was told represented their home. At the time, this story was an anomaly, but over the next several decades, tens of thousands of people from every corner of the globe with no connection to one another would report stunningly similar experiences. Lost time, strange marks on their bodies, and recurring dreams of non-human doctors and hybrid children. Researchers like the late Dr. David Jacobs spent their lives documenting these accounts, concluding that it all pointed to a systematic clandestine program of genetic integration. Is it truly possible for thousands of disconnected people to independently invent the exact same detailed narrative, or are they all describing different parts of the same, horrifyingly real program? This brings us to the Men in Black. These are not the charismatic agents from the movies. The real-world accounts are far stranger. Witnesses to major UFO events often report being visited soon after by a pair of men in pristine, often outdated, black suits. They are described as being unnervingly pale, with stiff, doll-like movements, and an utter lack of emotion. They speak in a flat, monotone voice, and often seem confused by basic human objects and customs. They don't threaten violence directly, but their presence carries an overwhelming sense of menace. They possess knowledge about the witnesses' sighting that no one else could possibly know, and they strongly advise them to forget what they saw for their own good and the good of their family. Where do these men come from? Why do they all fit the same bizarre non-human description? Are they androids, clones, or are they another form of alien, tasked with keeping the infiltration under wraps? Now, the official story, the skeptical view, is that there is no credible physical evidence for any of this. Not a single alien body, not one piece of verified non-terrestrial technology. Science has a very simple explanation for these phenomena: the human brain's remarkable capacity for pattern recognition, or what's known as apophenia. We are wired to see faces in clouds and connect unrelated events into a coherent story. Seeing a slit in an eye is simply our brain misinterpreting a digital compression error. The universal myth of serpent gods can be explained by humanity's innate evolutionary fear of snakes. Psychologists argue that abduction stories, while feeling real to the individual, can often be attributed to sleep paralysis, a terrifying state where the mind wakes up but the body cannot move, often accompanied by vivid hallucinations. They suggest that the similarities in these stories come not from a shared experience, but from a shared cultural script, popularized by books and movies. The Men in Black phenomenon is explained as a modern myth, a manifestation of government distrust, or simply cases of overzealous but entirely human federal agents investigating potential security breaches. In this view, the idea of aliens among us is not evidence of an infiltration, but evidence of our own anxieties and our deep-seated need to believe there's a simple, grand explanation for a complex and often chaotic world. So we are left with two realities. In one, we are alone, and our own minds are playing tricks on us, creating villains and phantoms to explain the unexplainable. It's a world that is logical, scientific, but perhaps a little empty. In the other reality, we are not alone at all. We are observed, we are managed, and we are infiltrated. It's a world where the person you pass on the street might be a century-old observer in a human disguise, where the leader on your television screen might be a genetic puppet, and where your own feelings might not be entirely your own. The most confusing part is that a world under silent control would look almost exactly like a world with no control at all. The perfect conspiracy is the one you can never prove. I don't have the answer. All I have is that lingering, instinctual feeling. The next time you see a powerful person speak without blinking, or you get that strange, unsettling feeling from a stranger, just ask yourself, am I being irrational, or is my ancient human hardware detecting a glitch in their software? This is Darknode, where the noise ends and the patterns begin. Like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the forbidden, the hidden, and the untold.